Hello and welcome to FatbossTV.
Hello.
And today we're having a look at the revamped Upper Blackrock Spire in the Warlords of Draenor Beta.
And the revamp itself hasn't actually affected the layout of the instance.
No, it hasn't.
And the route that you do take throughout the instance is exactly the same. There is one last boss room that's been added.
Oh god, it's so good.
And the way that it's been integrated is very, very clever. And of course we'll show you guys when we get to it. But the revamp mainly is just focused on removing all the old mobs and they bring in new mobs. More or less, there's still a couple of old mobs. And there's a couple of new doodads that change the aesthetics of the place slightly. It's very, very, very subtle.
Yeah.
But why are we here, Alex? What have they changed? Why are we back in UBRS?
Okay, I think the idea is roughly, in our, of course, fat bossy way, very roughly, is that basically the Dark Iron Horde people, they were just like, oh, you were going to take over Blackrock Spire so we can use like Blackrock Mountain itself as like a weapon against people if they fuck about, and we can make it explode and do the whole volcano erupty sort of thing going on. So it's like a contingency plan apparently.
It's like a backup plan,
yeah. So yeah, I think that's roughly the idea. But anyway, enough of this lore nonsense. Let's go straight into the instance itself. When you first enter the instance, you get this very, very familiar room with all the runes around the outside. Normally you actually get to pick whether to go to Lower or Upper Blackrock Spire. You don't actually get to choose now. It kind of throws you straight into Upper Blackrock Spire. And Lower Blackrock Spire is like empty and full of like horrible death floors and stuff. It's really fucked up. I don't really know what's going on there.
Hell as well.
But yeah, this room is really cool. It's a very iconic room, and the trash in this room, it's somewhat difficult. You got to be a little bit careful, I think is the best word.
And the main reason why you do need to be careful is because of these rallying banners. Essentially, all they do is that they just grow like in size. You see this red ring. Any new mobs that enter this red ring will become aggroed.
Yes.
So you need to make sure that you kill the banners really, really quickly. And also there's these Sentry Cannons that aggro from a very long distance away, and they do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you just kill these cannons and you kill the mobs without aggroing more shit.
Yes. But moving on, after you've cleared that room and got rid of all the runes, you can go into the first boss room where the old fire elemental is. That's gone now, thank God. And now you're in this room, and the first thing you notice is all these little rune conduits, so the little energy traps all around the outside of the room, and they're all going towards the central boss. And this actually works in the fight, because basically what you need to do is like unlock all of these rune conduits, and then once they're unlocked, the boss will actually spawn. And you actually use this in the encounter itself.
That's right. So the boss himself will only just spam like one ability on the tank. He'll melee hit as well. But really, he's not really a big deal. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but he will do one ability called Shrapnel Nova. Now, if you're stood up here on the platform, you'll get hit by it, but if you drop down, you won't, because it hasn't got a very big range on it. However, if you do stay down, you'll be attacked by these spikes, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen now. The hunter's getting attacked by them. They'll just do initial damage and then slow you.
Yeah, and kind of like push you away
and kind of like push you away as well. But the boss will, like we said earlier, will activate these conduits throughout the fight, and each conduit he activates reduces the damage he takes by 13%. Now, there should be, like, a ball of lightning going around the room at the same time on normal mode, but it's not actually here.
But on Heroic, there's two of them.
On Heroic, they're here, but there's two of them, yeah.
So it gets pretty hectic, especially if you're healing down here, and you're trying to, like, help with the conduits and stuff like that, because you're going to lose line of sight all the time, and even if you're standing on top of the platform trying to heal, you can still lose line of sight very, very easily. So it does get very hectic because of the boss, while the conduits are active, are doing, like, AoE damage to the whole raid and everything.
And he takes less damage as well, so you need to do these conduits. And as the fight goes on, you need to start deactivating more and more conduits.
Yes.
So it becomes a bit messy, especially with the Shrapnel Nova. I mean, as you can see here, 5 are active.
Yeah, it's like pretty much all of them are active. So yeah, it gets pretty crazy. But I think this boss is a really, really good use of the existing space. Like,
it's just because of the block in the middle.
Yeah, they've done a really good job, because they could have like tried to just put like a normal boss in here, but the fact that they've used the room so well and kind of made it a mechanic on its own without it being in the dungeon journal, I think it's a very good
DPS
boss.
need to constantly worry about being in line of sight of the healer, and the healer has to run around all the time as well. So I think just the way that they've implemented this boss, I think they've done a very, very good job. And it's probably the best boss in here, or one of the best bosses in here.
Yeah, it's very clever.
Let's just say it's a lot better than the fucking fire elemental.
Oh, yes, a hell of a lot better. But moving on, you go into the second room, which used to be full of eggs. Unfortunately, the eggs all cracked now on the floor, or they're just completely missing. But it's very Maloriac-esque in Blackwing Descent. You've got like all of the like test tubes, and you've got all these like amalgamated horrible people and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a really nice little room if you ask me.
So this trash itself doesn't really do anything too spectacular. They have a shockwave that you need to face away from the raid, and obviously the tank needs to move out of it. And they'll also do a defibrillating ray. And all this does is just reduces your movement speed and your damage by 20% per stack.
And
you
it
can
hurts quite a lot as
it
well,
does do
yeah.
quite a lot of damage as well, but you can just flat out interrupt it, but you can also dispel it as well. You can dispel the stacks in the tank. But that's more or less it. However, these two mechanics are actually in play on the boss, and when you do actually pull the boss, he comes with 2 adds as well that you can't kill separately. You need to kill them with the boss.
So what these adds do, of course, they do their eruption as well. So you've got to be really relatively careful because you don't have a lot of space in this room. It's quite cluttered. There's loads of like debris everywhere, so you've got to be careful of that. And they do have like a frontal cleave as well, so you've got to be careful. If you're a melee DPS, you've got to be standing behind. But on Heroic, the boss, what he does, he actually puts like a debuff on a player that makes them do pulsing AoE damage around them, so you've got to be spread out. But overall, the main mechanic you'll see, these lovely poison pools all over the ground. These will just constantly keep spawning, and recently they implemented it so they actually despawn after a while.
Yeah, because before they would literally last forever.
Which I thought was quite a nice little pseudo-enrage mechanic, because you literally start running out of space. But yeah, so they're like his main mechanics. He's also got a buff that he places on himself that makes it so he heals up, so you got to like dispel it, which is quite like innovative for a 5-man having to dispel. So yeah, I think it's good that they are adding in mechanics that you have to be careful like what is actually going on. But the boss himself, he's a little undertuned.
Yeah,
really.
the amount of damage that he's doing with his abilities is underwhelming. It's pretty easy to heal. So I expect they will be buffing him. And right next to him, for the people who saw, is Leroy Jenkins, who you can revive in Heroic mode. In normal mode, he's just sat there dead and there's nothing you can do. In Heroic, you can revive him.
Oh, God.
And he starts throwing memes in your face.
Oh, God. It's kind of like a neat idea.
Oh, I mean, it's kind
of. I thought it was funny.
I
thought it was funny when he was just dead on the floor next to this place.
Yeah,
it
same. I thought that was better.
I thought that was perfect. But the fact that you get to res him and he talks about like cooking 8-year-old chicken, and it's just like
because it's Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, and that was 8 years ago.
He's got
and chicken. Jesus fuck.
Yeah. There is actually an achievement in the instance to find Leroy his devout shoulders, which is the reason why he came here in the first place.
Oh right.
Apparently with Pals for Life. But yeah, we looked everywhere. We could not find them, and the bosses don't have any loot anyway, so maybe they drop off the bosses. So moving on, we come to this very familiar room with the Dragon King. However, they are now replaced with ogres.
Yeah, and of course you've got the Black Iron veterans and all that are knocking you away, which is really horrible. And like the ogres themselves, they do have like a buff that they place on themselves that increases their attack speed and maybe their attack and their damage themselves. And they've got a frontal cleave as well, which will stun you. So you got to be quite careful where you got to be standing. That's why you kind of hide in the corner so you don't want to be knocked back. But once you clear out that place and you drop down into the arena, Galacrass time. Got the waves of ads.
It's just waves and waves of ads like it was previously. The waves, though, they do have one nice thing about them, is that when they die, a new wave will spawn. It's not,
so you're
it's not on a set timer. You don't have to wait around. But the trash itself is a little bit uninspired. It's like AoE damage from the sky from these hatchlings that will then eventually land. You have to do standard interrupts. You need to do standard dispels. The damage is quite high at some points when there's lots of hatchlings in the air. As you can see, they're forced to trank. And then you will have the summoners that will try and spawn the veterans. You just need to make sure you interrupt it.
Which is actually quite important.
Which is very, very important, yeah, because the veterans are a bit of a pain in the ass. But ultimately, the trash is very uninspired. It's the standard shitty trash. But after the 3 waves are dead, you will get the boss.
And the boss, of course, it starts with the mount, and then like the boss jumps on the mount from the balcony. And once you get the mount down to 50% health, the boss jumps off it, and then you deal with both of them. Now, they do have 2 separate sets of mechanics. The mount himself, what he does, he will throw out poison pools on the ground, but he only really does it once. Like the frequency of what they come out as is not very high. Yeah. He also does like a breath, a frontal fire breath, and this will be like fixated on a random direction. It's not on a player or anything, not on the tank, so you've got to be like careful and move from that, because it does hurt quite a lot.
And you can see where he's facing it. You do have enough time to sort of, you know, move from it. So if it does like randomly focus at you, that's just coincidence.
Yeah.
You do actually have enough time to move. Whereas the boss actually has some slightly more interesting mechanics. As you can see, the mount just dies.
It
dies
much
really, really quick.
Down straight
Whereas
away.
the boss will constantly spam out Ravagers. This boss is essentially Nazgrim
and Galacrass. So they took the 2 best bosses from Season Morgan,
exactly.
Threw them in one dungeon. Jesus Christ.
He's not too bad though. But I mean, he'll spawn these Ravagers. You just need to make sure you avoid them. He will charge random players. You can actually avoid this charge.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit difficult. Seems a little bit buggy. And he'll also randomly throw his axe at people, which will put a bleed effect on them, which does a lot of damage. It's just very high damage dot. But the main thing why this boss sort of becomes difficult is because he starts spawning ads towards the end of the fight.
Exactly. These ads that are just coming in now, these are really, really horrible ads. Not only is it hard for the tank to pick up because of all the Ravagers are everywhere, but it's like hard for everyone to heal and be clumped up, so it's just horrible. And really, you want to nuke down the boss. You want to say, sod the ads. You might want to kill the bats on Heroic because they don't spawn on normal mode, but you might want to kill the bats on Heroic, but once you actually get the proper horrible elite ads, probably best just to nuke the boss, because once you do nuke the boss, the ads just fly away. And that's that boss.
But yeah, that's overall, more or less him. There's not much to him.
Definitely most disappointing boss in this instance. So thank God we get to move up and onward with the next couple of bosses. And going into this area, once again, it's kind of standard trash. But what's quite interesting is that the Blackwing lair portal doesn't work. You can't even get to it.
You can't actually get to it. And if you do somehow manage to get around the wall,
you can kind of disengage it,
which you can.
It's
not active. So, okay. So at this point, we move on towards the Beast, and we realise that a Leroy Jenkins chat bubble comes up.
Yeah.
And we were thinking, maybe he's up.
Okay.
Like, maybe he's doing something. So I saw the chat bubble over here. We came this way, and we couldn't see him. We couldn't find him anywhere. And when we did actually complete the instance, we walked around everywhere. We went to UBRS, and we were doing /target Leroy Jenkins. Couldn't find him anywhere. And like I said, we couldn't find his devout shoulder. So we don't think he's actually
finished yet.
Yeah, he's not properly embedded into the instance just yet. But here we go. Here's the son of the Beast.
And it isn't actually a boss. It's a mini boss. It has
he's
no
not actually a legit boss in the dungeon journal. He's not listed or anything. However, it is thought that he will be dropping either a pet or a mount.
Yeah, maybe the Corehound mount.
Yes.
So yeah, it's definitely a possibility. But this guy, although he doesn't have many mechanics, he definitely makes up with it the amount of damage he does. It really is vicious.
Yeah, he hits hard.
Basically, he'll just be fearing in an AoE close to him, so the tank and maybe the melee will be feared, or if the range are close, they'll be feared. And otherwise, he'll be charging at players, hitting them pretty hard, and leaving fire behind him. That's all he does. But it hurts quite a lot. Like, his abilities do hurt quite a lot.
I'm not sure if it'd be worth to come kill him unless he does actually drop the pet and the mount, because yeah,
it seems a little bit weird,
a little bit redundant. But here we go. We're moving over to the next boss, and this is
a bridge boss.
Yeah, a bridge boss. And it being Warlords of Draenor, bridge bosses are generally very, very good. So this one is arguably just as good as the first boss.
It is an amazing, amazing boss. Now, he hasn't got that many mechanics, but it's still very good. As you can see, he's placing fire pools on the ground. This would be under any player. It just happened to be the tank there. So you've got to make sure you move out of that. But he also has got like a breath. And this is the way the breath works. It will either start from the right-hand side and go all the way to the left, or it will start on the left-hand side and go all the way to the right. So really, you want to be standing in the middle. Generally, on normal mode, it only goes to the middle of the platform. On Heroic, it does a sweep of the whole platform.
Yeah, on Heroic, it goes slightly longer, but you can avoid it. So the best tactic to deal with that is by standing in the middle, and then seeing which way he's facing, and then running to the opposite side. Now, he does actually move from one side to the other, and during this transition period, he'll start spamming the platform with loads of AoE damage.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that you try and avoid these, and it seems like you need to move further away from than the actual animation, because the animation seems to be actually a lot smaller than what the actual hit location is, and he'll also spawn a load of whelps at this point, and then he'll come back down and land, and the fight will continue from this point.
Yeah, so it does get a little bit hectic with all the ads coming down, with all the fire on the floor and all that kind of stuff, but once he has gone up twice and comes back down, he'll actually land on the bridge itself, and here he'll start getting a like a stacking buff on himself, which is an enrage effect that increases the damage he does, and he will just fire out pulls on people. So he doesn't do a frontal breath or anything, so you don't actually need to face him away, except for like melee and stuff. It's kind of nice to do. But yeah, it's actually pretty simple once he gets to this point. It's more of a, if you don't have a dispel, you might die.
Yeah, I mean we could use Soothe here, but we didn't bother. We were just sort of going for it. But when the boss does land, it's relatively simple. But I really like the way that when it does go up and it does load AoE on the platform, you need to keep moving around, and there's no set pattern to it. I really like that boss. Really well done.
Especially when you do go in there, you will die if you don't know what you're doing.
Sure.
So it is
very brutal.
It is very, very good. But of course, going into this room, normally the boss is on the right-hand side. He's not there anymore.
Yeah,
and
General Jackasaff is gone.
There's a giant bloody hole in the wall. So,
yeah,
that's a little bit weird, but yeah, so these ads themselves, pretty simple to deal with. You've got like a Drake that does a breath and everything, but once you go in this room, oh my god. You're like inside Blackrock Mountain, above everything.
Above the mountain span.
And you're like on this platform, and you're about to fight Warlord Zila, who's the actual person who was flying Gallicrass in Siege of Orgrimmar.
Who is the very, very final boss. Now, she doesn't really do too much herself. She does have this knockback mechanic that will knock the tank up really, really well. Quite far, actually. It's about 15 yards. And as you can see, the area where we're fighting her is very, very small.
Yeah, it's quite precarious.
So you can get knocked off. And if you do fall down, you will just instantly die. There's a death floor. She'll also randomly fixate on people. you just need to walk away from her, and then she'll
Yeah.
go back to the tank. But that's pretty much all she does. However, around 50% health, when she drops to around 50% health, suddenly 3 Drakes will appear on heroic and 2 on normal that will spawn adds, and then the Drakes will bombard the platform with fire in certain locations that changes periodically that you need to keep moving from. So the fire is relatively easy to move from, but it's the adds that are an issue. The adds constantly knock back anyone within melee range, like with shockwaves.
Yeah.
And they will also grip people towards them like a death grip.
Wow.
Essentially.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty
you can
vicious.
get death gripped into the fire, like what just happened to the Shadow Priest there.
And
It's
the
really,
fire-
really nasty. I mean, we wiped like 4 or 5 times on this, and the reason we did so is because we didn't save all our cooldowns and Bloodlust for this particular point.
Yeah.
Because the boss herself, she's pretty, like, she hasn't got too many mechanics. It's just all the adds and the Drakes up at the same time, as well as her, that is the problem.
Yeah, and especially if you need to try and get some heals out, because of course you haven't got that many instant cast heals. Like Druids are probably the best for this.
Oh yeah,
'cause you
Druids
can
are
run around all the
fantastic for
time.
this.
But like it's really, really hard, because you can see, like, you just got into a new position out of that fire and ran straight into a new fire. Like, you've really got to
Yeah.
keep on top of it, because otherwise you are just gonna die.
It's
and
very
it is
messy.
very tricky. Hopefully they don't nerf this. You can actually kill the Drakes around the outside, so if it does get
There is
too
actually an
vicious-
achievement to kill the Drakes.
Yeah,
but it's just
so-
the Drakes have a significant amount of health.
Yeah.
They have like a lot.
Yeah, so it's not really.
It's a lot easier just to kill the boss.
Yeah.
So.
But overall, I think it's such a spectacle fight. You're above the bloody, like, a whole of Blackrock Mountain and all this kind of stuff. It's so good, and there's fire going out, and it's like this makeshift platform. It's an amazing fight. It's definitely a really nice way of ending the instance, 100%, with this, like, brand new room.
Yeah, I mean, the instance overall as a whole, I think the bosses are really nice, apart from maybe the Nazgrim boss.
Yeah, the Galacrest 2.0.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit shit, I'll be honest with you. The rest of the bosses, I think, are really, really good. I don't think they even need to improve them, really. I wouldn't really ask more of the last or the first boss as an example, and I think the bridge boss is really well made as well.
Yeah, I think overall they've done a really, really good job. Like, they've just made the bosses very, very good, apart from Galacrest. If they just need to do something with that boss. I understand that it's got, like, a little bit of a place in history, but it's shit. It's just not fun to do.
Yeah.
So, like, unfortunately, that does bring the instance down a little bit, but they've done a very, very good job everywhere else.
So thank you very much for watching, guys. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, and of course we'll see you on the live stream.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.